After the real son came back, I became disposable. My sister, who already disliked me, began to hate me even more. I've never, not once, thought of you as my brother. The family that once seemed so loving kicked me out. You should go back to your real parents. But I had nowhere to go. I was abandoned. I had no home to return to. The real son, smug, tossed a thick envelope of cash at my feet. Guess it's your lucky day. You're dealing with a nice guy. I stumbled away, pretending to look heartbroken for their sake. But the second the mansion gates closed behind me, I was ecstatic. Finally, I was free. Yes, I'd been cut off completely, but with a massive severance package. The world was my oyster. I flew abroad and spent the next 6 months backpacking, living the dream, vacationing, staying at luxury spa resorts, eating gourmet meals. The only downside was the hotel security. One morning I woke up tied to a chair. A familiar figure stood before me, a strange glint in her eyes as she smiled. Enjoying your little trip? It all started with a blood drive. My parents were both type A, but I was type B. I knew this day would come. The day the real son showed up and I, the fake one, would be thrown out. And it happened. He strolled into our house, waving a paternity test from who knows where. The evidence was clear he was my parents' biological child, which made me the imposter. He had bleach blonde hair and wore worn-out slides. The moment he saw my parents, he dropped to his knees. "Mom, Dad, I finally found you," he wailed, tears and snot flowing freely. It was so over the top. I almost cried myself. My parents took the report. Not entirely convinced, but they still helped him up, seeing their own features in his face. My mom asked softly, "Son, what's your name?" The blonde kid sniffled, choking back a sob. "My name is Ryan Miller." My parents repeated it and smiled. "It's a good name. A very good name. But you wouldn't mind if we went to the hospital for another test, would you?" Ryan nodded, flashing yellowed teeth from smoking. "Not at all." With that, my parents let him out. I didn't go. I started packing better to be prepared. A few minutes later, I heard shouting outside. "Mom, Dad, I think I left my phone inside." "I'll grab it." Ryan came back in, but he didn't search for a phone. He just glared at me. "Your good life is about to end. If you know what's good for you, leave now." I was confused. I hadn't done anything to him. Why the hostility? It wasn't my fault his life had been miserable until now. I was the one abandoned by my birth parents and dumped in an orphanage before the Scots adopted me. This wasn't some cliché drama where a nanny swapped babies. Coming after me was ridiculous. He kept glaring, so I responded in kind. I let out a fart as a show of force. The smell hit him hard, and he staggered back. "God, that stinks. What did you eat for lunch?" I calmly thought back. Let's see. A burrito with extra black beans, grilled onions, and lots of garlic sauce. His face twisted with rage. He bolted for the door, tossing a final threat. "You're finished when I get back." I called out, teasing, "Wait, scared now. Are you wah?" He slipped and crashed flat on his back. I pointed out, "I was just trying to tell you that tile's slippery. Watch your step." He scrambled up angrily, but when he saw my parents approaching, he started wailing again. "Mom, Dad, I'm fine. It's just, I think Julian's in a bad mood." I get it. Listening to his passive-aggressive act, I was speechless. Looking at how fast he switched moods, I thought, "Are you Usain Bolt?" My parents sighed, tired, and helped him up. We saw the whole thing. Ryan's pitiful act crumbled, and his face turned bright red. "Oh, I was just joking around. You believe me, right?" My parents exchanged a look and gave an awkward laugh. "Maybe, but don't make those kinds of jokes. You could get hurt." Mortified, Ryan hurried away. I just sighed and kept packing. The truth is, the only person you can ever rely on is yourself. With money's help, the hospital test results came back quickly. Sure enough, Ryan Miller was my parents' biological son, the true heir to the Scott fortune. When they heard my parents' faces lit with joy, Even my older sister, Victoria the cold, busy CEO, washed home. She stared at the report, delighted. Everyone was gathered around Ryan, celebrating. When I saw Victoria smiling, it hit me what's fake can never become real. I hadn't seen her smile like that in years. Whenever she looked at me, her expression was always cold. It wasn't always like that. Victoria and I were close when we were kids, just 2 years apart. We ate together. She'd share her snacks with me and even eat the carrots I hated. She'd pull me out of our parents' arms, treat me like her personal doll, and promise to protect me from monsters. We played everywhere, leading the neighborhood kids in hide-and-seek and video games. We walked to school together, and she'd hold my hand, telling me to stay close. Even after she moved up to middle school, she'd take a detour just to walk me to my elementary school gate. If I got bullied, she was the first to drag me over to confront the kid. Even if the other boy was taller and stronger, she'd fight until he apologized. But as she got older, she changed. She became distant and cold. She'd bang on the bathroom door, telling me to hurry up, even though there were other bathrooms in the house. She'd walk in while I was brushing my teeth, her face twisted in pure disgust. If someone asked if I was her brother, she'd deny it, as if they'd accused her of something terrible. When she saw people making fun of me, she'd stay silent and walk away. I thought it was just a teenage phase. But it started in her junior year of high school and never stopped through college and into her career. We barely spoke at home, and I always felt her icy gaze on me. At first, I didn't understand why. Then I learned I wasn't her real brother, and it all made sense. She must have known long before I did. She probably hated me for taking her brother's place, for living a life that should have been his. That had to be why she changed so drastically. But I understand now. Some people value the time they've spent with you. Others value the blood you share. Neither is right nor wrong. It's best when both matter equally, but leaning one way or the other is human. I think I'm lucky. Even as an orphan, I was fortunate to be adopted by my parents. I had a loving family. And even though my sister grew to resent me, I can understand her feelings. I lived comfortably, never worrying about food or money. I got to attend one of the best universities in the country, and I'm about to finish my master's degree. I'm incredibly fortunate. I've seen kids forced to drop out of school because of family problems. They weren't any less smart than me, they just didn't get the same chances. I've seen people go down the wrong path because no one guided them, because they had no stable environment to grow up in. So yes, I'm lucky. Being orphaned was a tragedy, but it was also luck that this family found me. Even if they resent me now, even if they want me to step aside for their biological son, I can accept that. I'm a grown man now. I can stand on my own 2 feet. Once the spring semester ends, I'll have my master's and can get a good job. I'm 6 feet tall and perfectly capable of taking care of myself. I haven't needed anyone's help for a long time. And if words ever fail, I've got years of kickboxing experience to back me up. What more could I possibly ask for? Overcome with emotion, Ryan dropped to his knees again, his face streaked with tears and sincerity. My parents rushed to lift him up, their faces glowing with pride and relief. Get up. It must have been so hard for you all these years, they said, their own tears falling freely. The 3 of them hugged tightly, comforting each other. Then my mom wiped her eyes and waved me over. Julian, come here. This is your younger brother. Technically, I was 2 months older than Ryan. It made sense for him to call me his older brother. Ryan stiffened for just a second, then stepped forward, pulled me into a hug and shouted, "Brother." But as he held me, he whispered in my ear, "Don't get too comfortable. I'll have you out of here sooner or later." He squeezed my waist hard. I grunted, then wrapped my arms around his neck, matching his enthusiasm. "It's so great to finally meet you, little bro. We're going to have a great life together. We'll make up for everything you've missed." Over his shoulder, saw his face turning red, veins popping on his forehead as he struggled for air. Before he could say anything, I let him go. I turned to my parents with a big smile. Looks like he's just a little overwhelmed with emotion. His face is all flushed. My parents were thrilled, holding both our hands. "You are both my children," they said. "It doesn't matter who's biological and who isn't. Of course." "Right, little bro," I grinned at Ryan. He was still trembling from lack of air, swallowing hard, unable to expose what I had just done. "Ha ha, yeah, right," he gasped. My parents looked happy, but Victoria didn't. She stood off to the side, staring at me with that same cold expression, lost in thought. I figured she was already planning how to kick me out. Don't worry, I thought. When the time comes, I'll leave on my own. Time passed and Ryan began settling into the family. Despite his bleached hair and the first impression that he was trouble, he turned out to be surprisingly well behaved. He even knew how to cook, apparently. He'd gone to culinary school after high school and he was good at it. His food was delicious. The story of how the real son was lost was, sadly, a familiar one. It was a kidnapping. He was just over 2 years old, playing outside. In an instant, a kidnapper snatched him. Back then, investigative techniques were limited, and there weren't cameras everywhere like there are today. The kidnapper slipped into alleys, fled to remote towns, peered into the mountains, and the child was gone for good. My parents were devastated. They lost interest in work and life, spending their days posting missing person flyers and asking everyone if they'd seen their boy. They went to the police, the newspapers, TV stations, everywhere. Nothing. It was as if fate was mocking them, just as they were losing hope. They visited an orphanage and found me abandoned. A new kind of anger filled them. How could any parent do such a thing? They saw me, the child they had been desperately searching for, the one someone else had thrown away. Out of compassion, or maybe because I reminded them of their lost son, they adopted me. Just like that, I became the family's replacement son. Victoria was just a little girl then. When her parents brought me home, they worried about upsetting her. So they never told her the truth that her real brother was missing. When she saw me for the first time, she shouted with joy, "My baby brother's back." My parents exchanged a glance and went along with it. Yes, this is your brother. And so I truly became the substitute. In Victoria's heart, I was the real thing until the lie eventually fell apart, even though Ryan was trying hard to win everyone over. There was still one person besides me who didn't trust him, my younger sister. "Chloe, I don't trust that guy," she told me. "He acts all nice, but I bet he's a total snake." I was touched. I couldn't believe she was still on my side through all this. Chloe is the youngest in the family, 4 years younger than me. For some reason, she's always been incredibly attached to me. As a little girl, she was a crybaby. Nothing could calm her down except me. The moment I held her, she'd stop crying, her big round eyes staring up at me. Then her chubby little hands would wave as she giggled. Just like I had been Victoria's shadow as a kid, Chloe became mine. I held her hand, ate with her, played with her, and walked her to school. Now she's a college student, poised, beautiful, and just as striking as Victoria. She might not have Victoria's maturity yet, but her youthful energy is entirely her own. At home, the family had split into 2 factions, Victoria and Chloe, who constantly clashed. Despite their 6-year age gap, they argued all the time. Whenever Chloe clung to me, Victoria's glare would sharpen as if to warn me, "Remember your place." Chloe would glare right back. Year after year, this continued. When they argued, Victoria would call her a little brat and Chloe would shoot back. Old hag. An argument would explode, and I'd grab Chloe and run. Chloe was right about Ryan. He was waiting for the perfect moment, planning something big to take me down in one move. He knew my parents were too kind to throw me out, even if I wasn't their real son. He wasn't some clueless villain from a bad novel. After our first clash, he knew I wasn't an easy target. To get rid of me, he'd need a knockout blow, something I could never recover from. I have to admit, he was ruthless. I never thought he'd go this far. His first step was to build an image of himself as capable and kind. Ryan worked hard around the house. Knowing his strength was cooking, he prepared elaborate dinners that amazed my parents. But he understood that wouldn't be enough. People eventually get tired of the same food. He needed something bigger, something that would make my parents truly accept him. So, he decided to go to college. He'd only finished high school, which was already more than they'd expected. Now his desire to earn a degree and better himself so he wouldn't embarrass them deeply moved my parents. They poured money into the effort. He started attending prep courses, studying day and night, until one day, my parents said gently, son, maybe we should just forget it. We just want you to be happy. We can support you. The report card in front of him was covered in glaring red single-digit scores that burned his eyes. Their words were like a hammer, driving nails of failure deeper into his heart. But Ryan refused to give up. One more time, he declared. Not long after, the new report card came back worse than before. The scores were so low, he couldn't even bear to look at them. My parents covered their faces, too hurt to watch. Victoria, Ivy League PhD, now a young and successful CEO of the family company. Me, Julian, about to graduate with a master's degree from one of the country's top universities. Chloe, an undergrad at that same university. Ryan, the record holder for dropping from double-digit scores to single digits. It's not your fault, son, my parents said carefully, searching for the right words. You're a great cook, right? Maybe you could pursue that. We could help you open a restaurant chain, tears welled up in Ryan's eyes. It was hard to tell if it was gratitude or humiliation. He stumbled out of the room and slammed his bedroom door. Muffled sobs drifted out from behind it. Maybe he wasn't unintelligent. With parents as brilliant as ours, he must have inherited some good genes. But his upbringing had been so different that he couldn't catch up so quickly. That plan failed, but it didn't weaken his resolve. His effort at studying at least earned him some goodwill with my parents. The kid doesn't give up easily, they thought. That's a good quality. But for Ryan, that wasn't enough. His real goal was to get me kicked out. The easiest way to do that was to ruin my reputation. So, without my knowledge, rumors began to spread that I was fooling around with multiple female students even. A 60-year-old professor. Ryan never said it outright, of course, but he found ways to make sure those stories reached my parents. It doesn't matter if a rumor is true. What matters is what people believe. My parents called me into the study, their faces grim. Ryan stood off to the side, smirking faintly and trying to hide his glee. He comforted them, saying, Mom, Dad, don't be angry. Just talk to him. Then he turned to me. Julian, don't blame them. They're just worried about you. I shot him a look, then turned to my parents. It's true. I did it all. Ryan's jaw dropped. He never expected me to just admit it. But my parents chuckled. Julian, you're such a kid. We trust you, son. As Ryan stared in disbelief, my parents pulled me aside and whispered conspiratorially, So, which one do you actually like? You can tell us. My dad grinned. Although the 60-year-old, we might have to think about that one. Do we call her our daughter-in-law? Or... From the doorway, Chloe burst out laughing. Ryan looked like his brain had short-circuited. Victoria's brow furrowed. Mom, Dad, are you just going to let him get away with this? What if he's really hurting these girls? She asked sternly, making it clear how much she disapproved of me. I just smiled tiredly. My parents waved it off. He wouldn't. He wouldn't. Victoria shot me a look that said, I'm watching you. One slip up, and you're out. Why did everything have to be so dramatic? After that failure, Ryan was down but not out. He was already brewing a bigger plan. One day the whole family went out together. We had dinner, saw a movie, and visited an amusement park. That evening, as we waited at a crosswalk to head home, the street was packed with cars. At some point, Ryan had moved next to me, while no one was paying attention. He leaned in to say something, then casually grabbed my hand, making it look like I'd shoved him. He stumbled dramatically off the curb and into traffic. For a heart-stopping moment, it looked like he was about to be hit. Thankfully, the driver slammed on the brakes just in time. The man jumped out of his car, cursing and glaring at us. Ryan looked terrified, his arm and leg scraped and bleeding. He seemed like a fragile flower battered, but bravely standing tall. He pushed himself up, apologizing profusely to the driver and taking all the blame. Then he turned to me, my parents, Victoria, and Chloe, tears in his eyes, but a faint smile on his lips. I'm okay. I'm so sorry. It was my fault. I didn't mean to worry you. The look in Ryan's eyes was perfectly balanced, 20% fear, 30% self-blame, and 50% resilience. An Oscar-winning actor couldn't have done it better. Spielberg himself would have said, "Now that is real talent." I thought, great, I'm screwed. Surely my parents wouldn't be that gullible. Would I really be dumb enough to push him in broad daylight in front of everyone? Did that even sound believable? Turns out, back at home, it sounded perfectly believable. Victoria was the first to strike. "Julian, what do you have to say for yourself?" I looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "What do you think?" Furious, she turned to my parents. "Mom, Dad, I propose we remove Julian from our family's legal registration." Wow. What a delicate way to say she wanted me kicked out. I thought my parents would defend me, but when I turned, I saw them look at Victoria, then sigh. "Don't regret this," my dad said quietly to her, then turned to me. "Julian, we're so sorry. We're going to have to ask you to leave." I was stunned. They were serious. Chloe wasn't having it. Her eyes were red as she screamed, "You're all heartless. My brother would never do something like that." She pointed at Ryan, her voice shaking with rage. It was obviously him. He did it on purpose to get rid of Julian. "Are you all blind?" Her shouting changed nothing, except to make her own tears fall faster. I felt a rush of warmth toward her and gently patted her arm. "It's okay, Chloe. It's okay." Then I looked at my parents. I agree. They stayed silent. I sighed, knelt on the floor, and bowed deeply 3 times. "Thank you for raising me for everything." After the 3rd bow, I stood up and grabbed the suitcase I'd already packed. Their faces showed shock that I'd been so prepared. Chloe sobbed harder. "If Julian goes, I'm going too. I don't want to be in this family anymore." She cried. My parents looked like they wanted to say something. Even Victoria's expression shifted, just for a moment. And Ryan, why did he have tears in his eyes? I couldn't tell if he was happy to see me leave, or just rattled by Chloe's outburst. It didn't matter anymore. I'd already lived a fortunate life. The rest of it was mine to shape. They removed me from the family trust. Quickly, money makes things simple. I had saved plenty on my own over the years. Chloe clung to me, crying and refusing to let go, even trying to follow me out. I had to stop her. "If you follow me, I'll never speak to you again." It was a childish threat. But to her, it was the worst thing I could say. She had a better future here. As angry as I was at Victoria and my parents, I knew they weren't foolish enough to hand the company to Ryan. I was sure of that. Double quotes here. A little something out of the goodness of my heart. Ryan smugly shoved a debit card into my hand. I took it without hesitation. Pride? Dignity? This wasn't about that. Why wouldn't I take free money? Only an idiot would refuse. Well, I'm leaving now. I glanced back at the mansion, at the place that held so many memories, then turned and walked out the gate without looking back. Behind me, Chloe's heartbreaking sobs echoed. The first thing I did was go to the bank. I checked my savings nice. Seeing all those zeros made me smile. Then I checked the card Ryan had given me. He hadn't been stingy. He'd even taped the pin to the back. With all that cash, I took my luggage and found a beautiful place to live in a scenic mountain town. It had hot springs, a pool, and was just a short walk from a bustling downtown. I was perfectly happy. The only problem was Victoria. It kept showing up to provoke me, getting under my skin, then crashing at my place and refusing to leave. She'd bring gourmet breakfasts to tempt me, wear revealing swimsuits to take over my pool, and constantly ask my opinion on clothes for some new boyfriend she'd claimed to have, because she'd been so good to me when we were kids. I tolerated her. The good memories balanced the recent infuriating ones. I was annoyed, but not hateful. But then they all started treating my new home like a resort. Chloe was there every day, clinging to me. The verbal sparring between her and Victoria gave me constant headaches. My parents, probably feeling guilty, would show up, pretending to be on vacation just to check on me. And Ryan, high on his victory, started coming too. Always wearing that smug grin. Fine, if I couldn't have peace here, I'd find it somewhere else. I decided to leave the country. It was time for a real break time to avoid any more soap opera plot twists. The real sun was trying to frame me again. My parents were wringing their hands in regret. I booked a flight, got a new phone, and prepared to disappear. I just prayed none of that mess would follow me. Everything was set. The only thing I forgot was how resourceful some people can be. "Hello there. You look familiar." Sitting a few rows ahead of me on the plane was a girl in a white dress and sunglasses. It was Chloe. She glanced back at me and grinned. "Well, look at you, handsome." Fine for that compliment. She could come. We traveled the world together, hopping across countless countries: Amsterdam, Iceland, New York, Las Vegas, South Korea, Japan, Singapore, you name it. We went skiing, visited real-life anime locations in Japan, saw the Eiffel Tower, floated through Venice's canals, marveled at Yellowstone, and watched the northern lights in Iceland. Chloe was glued to my side. Knowing I wasn't her biological brother didn't make her pull away. It made her even bolder. I just sighed and let her do her thing. We rode wild horses, crossed sweeping plains, trekked through deserts, and explored the ancient ruins of Egypt. Chloe never seemed to run out of energy. "How are you always so happy?" I asked her one day. "Because I'm with you, Julian," she said. "When you're by my side, I'm happy." I was speechless. My very existence was the source of someone else's happiness. What an honor. In South Korea, we stumbled upon a K-pop concert. In the middle of the screaming crowd, Chloe yelled, "He's not even 1/10 as handsome as my brother." Thankfully, no one there understood English. We drifted like dandelion seeds, floating from place to place until we landed in a seaside hotel in Singapore. We explored, ate incredible food, and had an amazing time until Chloe got a call from her professor reminding her about final exams. Reluctantly, she had to fly back. Suddenly, I was alone, and for the first time in a while, a pang of loneliness hit me. That night, after dinner and a shower, I laid back on the huge, soft bed. Life is good, I thought. I still had so much time to experience everything, the good and the bad. Whatever happens, I just want to live life to the fullest. With that thought, I drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, something felt wrong. My limbs were heavy, like I was tied down. I opened my eyes to a different ceiling. This wasn't my hotel room. "You're awake." A familiar voice. I turned my head toward the sound. Oh crap. It was her, Victoria, wearing a long black dress, glided toward me. Her smile was bewitching, and a shiver of dread ran down my spine. I'd only ever seen that smile when we were little. "What's going on?" I struggled against the restraints. Victoria came closer, pressed down on my arm to stop me, and traced a finger along my cheek. Her expression rapturous. "I'm finally going to have you." I was completely confused. "What are you talking about?" But she explained everything as if it were her victory speech, like a villain gloating over the defeated hero. She said she had always been in love with me. The obvious question, "Then why were you so awful to me all those years?" She had an answer. At first, she thought it was just sisterly affection. But when she hit puberty, those feelings blossomed into something else. She realized with horror it wasn't familial. Love, it was romantic love. But how could that be? Our relationship was supposed to be forbidden. She was torn, struggling with her feelings. She didn't know how to face me, so she chose distance and coldness, terrified she'd lose control and do something that would hurt me. But emotions aren't easy to suppress. She admitted there were moments she wanted to sneak into my room at night, but her rational mind always stopped her. The conflict drove her crazy. Eventually, she decided that if she couldn't get rid of her feelings, she'd make me hate her instead, hoping that would kill the love she felt. That's why she mocked me, why she denied I was her brother, why she stood silently when others mocked me, though she admitted she always handled those bullies later in private. She had been fighting a war inside herself. And then one day Ryan showed up. She learned we weren't related by blood. She was overjoyed, but by then the damage was already done. How could she possibly undo years of cruelty? And what if I didn't feel the same way? If she confessed and I rejected her, I might leave for good. They say love makes you stupid and foreign arrogant. Emotionally guarded genius like Victoria, it was a catastrophic drop in IQ. So, she made a plan. get me kicked out of the family. Sever our official ties so the world would know we weren't siblings. Then she'd slowly get close to me again, rebuilding our relationship, not as family, but as a man and a woman. And that's how we ended up here. After hearing all of that, I could only think one thing. This is completely insane. Victoria leaned in and kissed me. I couldn't dodge, couldn't escape, was powerless. She whispered in my ear. Her voice soft and hypnotic. Just leave the rest to me. My head felt fuzzy. Crap, she must have drugged me. I'm so screwed, I thought, as my consciousness faded away. That night, I had a dream. We were kids again, eating grapes, peeling back the dark skins to reveal the beautiful translucent fruit inside. They were so sweet. When I woke up, every muscle in my body ached. I heard Chloe's voice. Julian, you're finally awake. It's all that evil woman's fault. Chloe threw herself into my arms, and my whole body felt like it might fall apart. I stroked her hair, noticing her scentite was so familiar, like I just smelled it moments ago. I glanced to the side and saw Victoria sitting quietly in a chair, saying nothing. What the hell happened? I asked. Confused, Chloe turned and ordered Victoria around. Go get my brother something to eat. Victoria looked at me with longing. Then at Chloe with a mix of jealousy and resentment. But she stood up and left to prepare food. Chloe looked back at me with a smug, triumphant expression. Apparently, while I'd been unconscious, some kind of deal had been struck. When the food arrived, Chloe fed me. Victoria watched, looking like she wanted to speak, her hand twitching as if to reach out, then pulling back. I was the one who raised Julian, she muttered under her breath. It should be me. Her muttering earned her a sharp glare from Chloe. Later, as I was resting, I vaguely heard them talking. Quiet, you'll wake him up. What about what you promised me? Don't even talk, Victoria. If I hadn't gotten back when I did, you would have like you can talk. You're the one who got to him first. Hey, that's what you get for being a coward. You should have just told him you liked him years ago. Learn from me. See how much he loves me. Oh, please. All you do is cling to him, and it works, doesn't it? They started bickering again. I decided it was best to keep my eyes shut and my mouth closed. The things I was hearing were blowing my mind. Fragments of memories surfaced. Chloe's triumphant shouts from inside the room. Victoria's quiet sobs just outside the door. We stayed together for a long time after that, traveling, exploring, eating. Victoria finally loosened up. Chloe had her fun. I suffered. When we'd had our fill of traveling, we returned home. My parents were waiting at the door. The moment they saw me, they burst into tears. We're so sorry, son. We never meant to. I helped them up. I knew it had been Victoria's insane idea. After all, a huge sum of money had been deposited into my bank account every month since I'd left. I knew who it was from. I looked at Victoria. She avoided my gaze, apologized to me and my parents, and said, it was my fault. We all sighed and then started laughing. Just then, we heard a call from behind us. Ryan walked out, supporting two frail elderly people. I'm so sorry, he cried. Dropping to his knees and bowing his head to the ground over and over, the old couple tried to kneel too, but I stopped them. I had already looked into it. They were Ryan's adoptive parents. They had been seriously ill, and Ryan had sold everything he owned but still couldn't cover the medical bills. That's why he'd shown up at the DNA test. If it hadn't been for that, he probably never would have come looking for his biological family, his adoptive parents. Were kind people who had sponsored other children's educations. He loved them dearly. To him, the life they shared was what truly mattered. When he came to our family, he saw how well my parents treated me, but he desperately needed the money. He had no idea how much the treatments would cost, and worried that my presence as the fake son would make him, the real son, seem worthless. He was afraid my parents would resent him and kick him out before he could get the money to save his adoptive parents. So, in a twisted act of desperation, he came up with his plan. The driver in the street had been paid off. It was all staged. He never knew my parents were in on it the whole time, playing along with Victoria's scheme. Money had already been wired to his adoptive parents, and they were receiving the best medical care. I'm despicable. I'm a horrible person. I'm scum, Ryan sobbed, slapping his own face until it was red and swollen, tears streaming down his cheeks. His adoptive parents cried too, blaming themselves. Seeing this, I sighed. I won't press charges, but you're not getting off scot-free. I sentenced him to perform 100 substantial acts of kindness. I would check his progress. And there would be penalties for failing. He cried and laughed at the same time, nodding, his forehead already bleeding. I sighed again. What a mess. If everyone had just been honest from the start, none of this would have happened. Years later, I brought it up again. You guys agree? Right? I asked. I looked over at Victoria and Chloe, their bellies swollen and round. They heard my question and smiled brightly. Yes, dear. We agree. See? I was right. They agreed.